Welcome to the Survivor to Thriver show with your happiness expert, Samia Bano. Do you feel stuck, silent, and stressed? Is something hurting your heart and soul? Are you burning yourself out? If so, you are in the right place because this is the podcast people from all over the world join in to learn exactly how to stop suffering and start living with inner peace and joy. Let's get started. Hey, welcome back to the Survivor to Thriver show. And as I like to say, welcome back to you and welcome back to me because it's been a while since I have done a new show. It's been, in fact, I think over a month since I've put out a show. So I am really happy to be back with you because I will admit that I had not actually planned to take such a big break from doing shows for this podcast. But, sometimes life happens and you have to go with it. Now, if you've been a faithful listener of the show, then you know that the last few episodes that I did were actually done from when I was at a health center, and I was actually water fasting at that health center. Water fasting means that I was not eating or drinking anything except for water. And I actually did an 8-day water fast. So for 8 days, I had nothing to eat or drink except water. And of course, then I had to stay at the health center for a few days beyond the 8 days of water fasting so that I could start refeeding, or, means like so I could start eating again, but to do so in a very slow, systematic, careful way, so as to make sure that I didn't shock my body and end up hurting myself, because you can actually do that. You can get yourself into a lot of trouble by breaking your fast in a careless way. And, when I got to the health center, I will say that I was a little surprised once I started water fasting to have my doctors and fellow patients who are more experienced than me at water fasting share with me that even after we start to eat again, after an extended water fast, that it still takes us some time to fully recover our energy. I had honestly expected that right after I'd get back from the health center, because that I'd be able to immediately get back into the full swing of my usual work schedule, but I had obviously not anticipated that just wouldn't happen, because my body needed more time to fully recover its energy. So I had to give myself an extension in the rest period, or the holiday that I was taking off of work while I was at the health center. And to that extent, all was well. Because you know what? It's like if your body needs to rest, then it's important that you allow it to rest. And I did that. So far, so good. But then I got into a little bit of trouble when I allowed my holiday to get a little too long. Meaning, like, I allowed my holiday to stretch beyond the point where I really needed time off to recover my energy. And in fact, I stretched my holiday a little so long that I began to experience a dip in my sense of inner peace and contentment. And it was really experiencing that dip in my inner peace and contentment that sort of like shook me out of my state of complacency. And I was like, hey, what's going on here? What's up with this dip in my inner peace and joy? Because for me, one of my top values, and in fact, I will say my top needs and priorities in life, is my inner peace and contentment and joy and happiness. So a dip in my inner peace and contentment is a big deal for me, right? And I immediately, well, not quite so immediately, it took me 2-3 days of experiencing that dip to recognize that I really was experiencing a dip in my inner peace and joy. Because, I'm overall like really resilient, and I have practices built into my daily schedule that uplift my mood and my energy. So, I don't always immediately notice when I have a dip, meaning like the dip that I experience has to be significant for me to actually feel it, because I actually, normally speaking, don't have very significant dips in my experience of inner peace and joy. I'm very stable in that way. I have become stable in that way, and it's not by accident, actually. Like I said, I have a lot of different practices that I engage in on a daily basis to help make sure that my energy is staying up and actually continues to increase over time and over the course of my everyday. And so it's like, it really does have to be something pretty significant for me to experience a dip in my happiness and inner peace and so forth. And so anyway, once I registered that dip, I luckily, being the happiness expert that I am, I have the tools to figure out, and to do so quickly and effectively, what is actually going on, and to figure out a solution, a proper solution, an effective solution to dealing with whatever the cause or the challenge is. And this is, I think, an important lesson for me to share with you, that there are we are multidimensional beings, and we have many different needs in our lives. And a lot of times, what happens is that there may be certain areas of your life where you're doing really, really well, and that feed your sense of wellness and so forth. But just because you're doing really well in some areas of your life doesn't mean that there isn't room for growth and improvement, or that you're not facing some significant challenges in other areas of your life. In fact, that is the reality of pretty much all of our lives, that we are doing well in some things, some areas of our lives, meeting some of our needs, effectively while we are struggling in other areas of our life. And it's a matter of proportion, right? It's a matter of the more the greater the number of needs that you have that are being met effectively, the greater your overall sense of happiness and peace and contentment. And so the fewer the things that, the fewer the number of needs that you have that are not being met effectively, the less your sense of discontent, right? So in my case, thankfully, there are a lot of things in my life that were going really, really well, that are going really, really well. However, when my holiday extended a little too long, I have one major need that became ignored, and that was not being met when that holiday got stretched a little too long. And this is a universal human need. We all have it. And it's the need to live a life of meaning and purpose. To be engaged in work, in activities, in our everyday life that feel meaningful, that feel purposeful, that give us a sense of accomplishment, allow us to use our strengths and gifts that we have. And for me, the primary way in which I live out my life meaning and purpose, and the primary way in which I utilize my strengths and my gifts is by engaging in the work that I do. My work as a happiness expert, my work as an inner peace master, the coaching, the training that I do, the speaking, and so on and so forth. The work that I do is really my primary means for fulfilling my need for life meaning and purpose and accomplishment and so forth. And so when my holiday stretched too long, and it was primarily a holiday from my work related activities, you see, I started to get to a point where my need for life meaning and purpose and accomplishments was not being fully met, and hence the experience I had in the dip in my sense of inner peace and contentment. So the great blessing, though, is that once you correctly understand what the problem is, generally speaking, the solution is going to be fairly simple to recognize and to realize, if not to implement, right? And so in my case, I recognize that, time to get back to work, right? Now, I will say that whatever happens, even when we make mistakes, even when something doesn't go quite as we might have planned or intended to have it go, we can nonetheless learn important lessons from whatever happens. And by focusing our attention on learning what we can learn from the mistakes and the mishaps that we have made, and implementing those lessons into our life, we can focus on moving ahead in the most positive ways, in the most happiness promoting ways, and the most peace promoting ways. So when I recognized the mistake I had made, it was, of course, one of the next steps for me was to connect with my heart and to see what lessons that that could be learned, that I could learn from what I had just experienced, and what were some of the blessings that I could sort of identify that had come out of this experience. So I will begin with the blessings. And one of the biggest blessings that I experienced over this period was a blessing of that just having that extra time on my hands actually gave me the opportunity to examine in a more deep and thorough way, or re-examine in a more deep and thorough way what I was doing with my life, and to reevaluate and recommit to what was truly important for me in my life, and sort of like update my overall life mission, vision, and so on and so forth. And that's a very, very important thing for us to do. We all need to do that. Every so often, take stock of your life, re-examine your life, your goals, your visions, your dreams, what you're doing, and adjust what needs to be adjusted. So that was like one of the big blessings, but also some important lessons. It was like a great reminder for me, and a humbling reminder for me, actually, that I still have, as well as I'm doing, I still have a lot more room to grow and learn. A lot more room to grow wiser and learn to be even more disciplined, more conscientious, right? But also to be even more happy, to be even more peaceful than I already am. And not only do I have this room to grow, but also to recognize that, I cannot take my happiness for granted. I cannot take my inner peace for granted. And this is something that, of course, I knew theoretically, but, as human beings, we have this tendency to know things and not apply what we know. Right? It's a common human weakness, so we need frequent reminders. And for me, this was a time that served, or this was an experience that served as a really important reminder in this context, that I cannot take my happiness for granted, because happiness is not a destination. It's not like something you get. It's not like a place you get to and then you get to stay there. Happiness is a state of being. It's a state of mind and a state of heart. And therefore it is something that we have to continually work to create and maintain. And there are a lot of different moving parts to what allows us to create and maintain our happiness and our inner peace and joy. And it's important that we are paying attention to all the different parts, right? So for example, like I was saying, I was doing really well in a lot of different parts of what what really helps us to create and maintain our happiness. So for example, my connection with my friends and families, like social support, was doing really well. I was doing really well at a general level in terms of my mindset. I was doing really well in terms of my sense of connection with my spirituality, right? And these are all very, very important things. And there are other moving parts, like I said, that we need to pay attention to if you're going to be truly in control of our mental and emotional well-being, of our happiness and our peace and joy. And so I was doing well in all of these parts, but at the same time as I was starting to miss the part where we need also to live with meaning and purpose. So it's like, cannot take your happiness for granted. It's something that you have to work on. And not only is it something that you have to work on, but it's like really important that you have an awareness of what are all the different moving parts that go into helping you create and maintain your happiness. And have you an awareness of what all those different parts are, and have you taken proper stock of where you may be sort of a little bit imbalanced or weak, and where you need to improve, create greater balance to make sure that you are truly as happy and as much at peace and experiencing all the joy and contentment that you desire, that you deserve, and so that you are truly in control of that experience. So, I'm looking at the time, and I think what we're going to do is go ahead and wrap up right here for today with just a reminder that, look, if this is something you find yourself struggling with, please do not continue to struggle with it on your own. And you know that I'm one person you can reach out to for the help and support you need. And you know how to reach me. Just go to my website at www.academyofthriving.com. Click on the Contact Us page, and you'll see how we can connect. So until next time, I wish you lots of peace and joy.